Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Xiong. A new study shows that Chinese youth born after 1990 hold more negative views of the United States than older generations. The study was conducted by Chinese researchers from Rice University in Texas, University of British Columbia, and National University of Singapore. It was published in the Chinese Journal of International Politics. The researchers surveyed more than 2,000 Chinese men and women from 3 age groups across China over 2 periods. The first period is late October in 2020, and the second period is late January in 2021. In other words, the researchers surveyed China's Gen Z before and after 2020 US election. Trump launched a trade war against China and claimed COVID-19 had originated in a Chinese laboratory. The study says those born in the 1990s and later were about 9% less likely to say that the USA cares about China's interests when making foreign policies, and 5% less likely to say that the USA has a positive influence on the Chinese economy. It also said that compared with the oldest group, they were 16% less likely to have confidence in the White House. Education also plays a role. College-educated respondents had more realistic understandings of China's economy. They were 8% more likely than those without a degree to say that the US was playing a less important role in the world. However, college-educated respondents were more subdued about the Chinese global leadership. It is in line with many domestic analysts that China is not ready for such a role. Respondents who do have personal contact with the states are more likely to have positive views. They were 7% more likely to have confidence in the US president and to believe the US respects its citizens' freedoms. The paper argues it is likely that Trump's rhetoric and policies toward China in 2020 had a much bigger role than propaganda in the worsening Chinese perceptions of the US. It said, compared with domestic events, it is more challenging to censor or guide public opinion about foreign affairs, where numerous alternative, both domestic and foreign sources of information are available. Well, there's some truth in it, because back in October 2019, Eurasia Group conducted a survey of Chinese opinions of the US. It found that number with explicitly negative feelings had quadrupled from 17% the previous year to around 68%. But were almost a third less likely to express negative views of Australia and Britain. I would like to add that the US mainstream media's overwhelming coverage of protests against racism in the US, as well as the January 6th Capitol protest, prompted the attitude change. At the Trump campaign for re-election, 75% of Chinese respondents believed that their country's relationship with the United States has worsened. Shortly after President Joe Biden took office, that figure had dropped to 64%. However, the study said that the Biden bump may dissipate over time as he continues many of Trump's policies towards Beijing. On the other hand, recent surveys have also found that Americans are increasingly likely to hold negative views of China. Last month, a Gallup poll found that just 20% of Americans have a favorable view of China. Last year, Pew Research Center also found that the number of Americans with an unfavorable view of China stood at 76%. Similar survey results in Australia, Canada, and Britain. What about American Gen Z? How do they view China compared to other generations? Based on an essay published on the Chicago Council on Global Affairs by Craig Kafura, younger Americans are more confident in US power vis-a-vis China. Older Americans are having a bit of a crisis of confidence in US military power at the moment. In 2019, 6 in 10 silent generation boomers and Gen Xers all saw the US as the stronger military power. In 2021, all three groups have fallen under the 50% mark. The change has been especially dramatic for members of the silent generation who believed the US and China are about equal militarily. Interestingly, Gen Z looks a lot like the silent generation when it comes to this question. They are the most likely to say the US and China are about equal militarily. 44% said so. Millennials is the most confident generation in American military power vis-a-vis China. 51% say the US is the stronger military power, the only generation where a majority says so. When it comes to economic power, though, older Americans continue to have more confidence in American economic power than do younger Americans. Only 18% of Gen Zers and 24% of millennials see the US as the stronger economic power. Millennials are the most likely generation to see China as the stronger economic power, with 43% hold this view. Gen Z is by far the most likely to see the two countries as evenly matched economically. 44% of Gen Z hold this view. Between the spring of 2018 and the summer of 2020, overall views of China fell sharply across generational cohorts, and the views remained depressed into the spring of 2021. One of the factors driving these views is the skepticism of China's intentions, as majorities of Americans across generational lines say that China seeks to replace the United States as the most dominant power in the world. Gen Z is somewhat less likely to say so, and is more likely than older generations to say that China does not seek dominance regionally or globally. However, the essay points out that America's youth are less likely to have made up their minds on US-China relations. I believe the pandemic and the Ukraine war will greatly shape what the Gen Z think of China. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.